Look at your kitchen window in the late afternoon, when the sun comes in low and warm across the counter. That is when you see them most clearly, lit up in that slanting light. 3, 4, a dozen of them, lifting off the fruit bowl, circling once, settling on the rim of a glass, walking across the bread you left out from lunch, and lifting off again the moment your hand comes anywhere near. You wave your hand, they scatter. You turn your back for one moment, and they are right back where they were, in the exact same place, as if you had never moved at all. You wipe the counter, you cover the bowl, and still, every afternoon, there they are. And so, after a while, you tell yourself the thing everyone tells themselves. You say, this is just summer. This is just how it is when it is warm. I have a kitchen, I have fruit, of course I have flies, I must simply live with them. I want to stop you right there, gently, before you go any further down that road. Because it is not true. You do not have to live with them, and you never did. There is nothing about your kitchen, or your fruit, or the warm weather, that means the flies must own the room where you feed your family. The only thing that was ever true is that nobody sat you down and showed you the simple way. I am going to show you today, and at the center of it is one small thing you can build in 5 minutes. A small thing that, once you set it down in the corner of your kitchen, makes its own faint breath into the air, hour after hour, day after day, and calls every fly in the room toward it and away from you. It does not need a smell you have to keep refreshing, it feeds itself. I will tell you exactly what it is and exactly how to build it, but let me build the understanding first, because if I just hand you the trick without the why, you will set it down wrong and think it failed. Stay with me and you will have it before we are done. My name is Naserian. I am Samburu. I have lived my whole life in the dry lands of northern Kenya, where we keep cattle and goats, where the land is hard and the heat is long, and where the fly is not the small summer nuisance it is to a person in a city. To us, the fly is a serious matter. Where there are animals and where there is heat, there are flies. More than you have ever seen in your life, more than you could imagine standing in your tidy kitchen. And they do not only annoy, they carry sickness from the dung to the food, from the food to the eyes of a sleeping child. So we learned, out of necessity and not out of cleverness, how to keep them away, and understand what we did it with. We have no screens fixed over glass windows. We have no spray truck that drives through and mists the air. We have no chemical man who comes once a month with a tank on his back and a bill in his hand. And yet my home, my cooking place, the food I set down for my family, stays clear of them. Not by magic. By knowing a few simple things that have kept the homes of my people clear for longer than anyone can remember. I will give you all of them today, in the order I would do them, and I will be honest with you about what works and what does not. Because there is a great deal of foolishness sold about flies, and I would rather you trust me than be impressed by me. An honest neighbor is worth more than a clever salesman. Now let me give you the one thing you must understand. Because if you understand this, everything else becomes easy. And if you do not, you will swat at the air forever and never win. Here it is. The fly you see is not your real problem. The fly you see is the end of the story, not the beginning. Every single fly buzzing in your kitchen came from an egg, and that egg was laid in something soft, something wet and sweet and quietly going bad. The big house flies lay their eggs in waste and scraps and anything decaying. The little fruit flies lay theirs on the skin of ripening and rotting fruit, in the damp film at the bottom of a drain, in the sour dregs at the bottom of a bottle. So hear this clearly, you are not being invaded from outside, not mostly. In most kitchens, the flies are being born right there, under your nose, in 2 or 3 small forgotten places you walk past every day and never think about. I will not spend long on this part, because honestly, you half know it already, and the part you do not know is coming. But it must be said, because everything after it depends on it. Before any trap, walk your kitchen once, slowly, looking for the wet, sweet, forgotten thing. The one black banana hidden at the bottom of the bowl, the bin with the lid that does not quite close. The drain that carries a sour film inside the pipe where you cannot see it, pour a kettle of very hot water straight down it. The sponge gone sour by the sink. There is always one such thing, I promise you, and that one thing is a nursery, full and working, making new flies faster than you can ever swat the old ones. Take it away, and you have cut the flies off at the root. A trap set while the breeding still goes on is like bailing a boat with the hose still open. You will work and never get ahead. That is the floor everything else stands on, and it takes you 10 minutes, and it costs nothing. Good. Now I can give you the real thing. Because here's the heart of it, the thing I promised you. The small thing that makes its own breath into the air. To understand why it works, you have to understand what the fly is truly hunting. You think the fly is drawn by smell, and it is, but that is only the near part of the story. From across the room, before it can smell anything finely, the fly is steering towards something else, toward a faint, invisible gas that rises off everything that is ripening and fermenting and alive with the work of rot. The pile of fruits going soft, the breath of an animal, the warm, sweet decay of the bin, they all give off this same gas, and the fly's whole body is built to find it and fly up the trail of it to the source. Now think about what that means. If you could make a small thing that gives off that very same gas, on its own, freely, all day and all night, you would have built a counterfeit so perfect that every fly in the room would steer toward it and leave you and your food alone. And you can. That is exactly what we are going to build. And the secret to making the gas is a thing already sitting in most kitchens, used for baking bread: yeast. Here is what yeast is. It is a tiny living thing, sold as a little dry powder, that wakes up the moment it touches warm water and sugar. And when it wakes and begins to feed on that sugar, it breathes out a gas as it works. The very same gas that rises off ripening fruit, off fermenting waste, off every place a fly is born. A spoon of yeast in sweet warm water is not just a smell sitting in a cup. It is a living thing, working, breathing out that fly-calling gas hour after hour, refreshing itself, making more, for days. That is the difference between this and a plain cup of something fragrant. The plain cup gives off its smell and slowly fades. The living bait keeps breathing. It does not fade through the night. It calls and calls. So here is how you build the trap, and it truly is 5 minutes, from a thing you would have thrown away. Take an empty plastic bottle, the ordinary kind a drink comes in. Cut it across, about a third of the way down from the top, so you have 2 pieces, a short funnel piece with the neck, and a tall cup piece below. Now take the funnel piece, turn it upside down so the neck points downward, and push it into the cup piece like a funnel sitting in a jar, the mouth of the bottle pointing down into the bottom. Take the cap off and throw it away, you want the neck open. That is your whole trap, built from rubbish in 2 minutes. Now the bait. Into the bottom, pour warm, not hot, water, a good spoon of sugar, and stir it until the sugar melts. Then add a small spoon of the dry yeast and do not stir it much, just let it settle. Within the hour, it will begin to wake and work, and it will keep working for days, breathing its gas up and out through the funnel neck. And add, as I will tell you with every trap, a single drop of dish soap. And here's why that one drop matters so much. Water has a kind of skin on its surface, a tension, and a fly can land on that skin and walk on it and lift off again unharmed. The single drop of soap breaks that skin completely. So the fly that comes down to the bait finds no skin to hold it and sinks straight in and cannot climb back out. One drop. That is the difference between a bait they drink from and leave and a trap that holds them. Now understand why the funnel shape is the other half of the trick. Because the gas draws them in, but the shape is what keeps them. The fly, pulled in by the breath of the yeast, crawls down through the narrow neck into the body of the bottle to reach the sweet bait. But when it is fed, or when it is alarmed and wants to leave, it does what every fly does. It flies upward and toward the light, toward the wide walls and the edges. It does not think to fly back down to the one small dark hole in the middle of the funnel that it came in through. So it batters against the sloping plastic walls, up, and never finds the little neck again. Drawn in by the gas, trapped by the shape. The bottle fills, over 2 or 3 days, with the flies of your whole kitchen, while the yeast keeps breathing and calling more. Set it in the corner away from where you eat, by the bin, by the window they crowd, near the door. Never on your own table, because you're trying to pull them away from you, toward the trap. That is the heart of it. That is the thing that does the real work. Now that living trap is wonderful for the big houseflies and for drawing the room. But the tiny fruit flies, the little cloud over the bananas, are worth one trap of their own, because they answer to something slightly different. And it is so simple, I will give it to you in a moment. Take a small open cup. Pour in a finger of apple cider vinegar, the cloudy kind if you have it, and drop in a small piece of overripe fruit if you wish. That sweet sour fermenting smell is the exact thing the little fruit fly was born to find. It is the smell of the rotting fruit skin where her kind lay their eggs. Add your 1 drop of dish soap, stir it gently to break the skin of the surface as I told you, and set that cup right beside the fruit bowl where they already gather. They come down to it through the night, and the broken surface takes them. If you want it stronger, stretch a piece of plastic over the top and poke a few small holes. The smell rises through, they crawl down through, and like the bottle, they cannot find the small holes again to leave. The yeast bottle pulls the room and takes the big flies. The little vinegar cup sits by the fruit and takes the small ones. Between the two, you have both kinds answered, each with the bait it cannot resist. And there is one more small thing my people have always done, and I give it to you not as a trap, but as a quiet helper at the door, because it costs nothing once it is growing. The fly dislikes the smell of certain strong herbs. A pot of basil or mint growing on the windowsill, a halved lemon with cloves pressed into it, set on the counter, a little crushed eucalyptus or bay near the door the flies come through. None of this kills a fly, and I will not pretend it does. It simply makes the fly want to be somewhere else, and pushes a few of them back out before they ever reach your traps. We grow strong-smelling herbs by the door and the cooking place for exactly this reason, and your kitchen ends up smelling of basil and clove instead of chemicals. It is the smallest of the 3 things, but it is free and it is pleasant, so I give it to you too. So now you have the whole of it, and it stands like a stool on 3 legs. First, the breeding taken away, the soft fruit, the loose bin, the sour drain, so no new flies are made. Second, the living yeast bottle in the corner, breathing its gas all day and night, putting the room and trapping the big flies, with the little vinegar cup by the fruit bowl for the small ones. Third, the herbs at the door, gently pushing the rest back out. Do all 3 together and you will not believe how quiet your kitchen becomes within a few days. Do only one and you will be disappointed and wrongly believe the whole method failed when you only ever used a third of it. And one honest word about keeping it going, because that is part of the truth too. The yeast bottle works hard for several days, then the yeast tires and the bait goes still. When it stops drawing flies, tip it out, rinse it, and mix a fresh spoon of sugar and yeast, and it lives again. A few coins of sugar and yeast, once or twice a week. The vinegar cup, change it every few days. And the drain sink and the tight bin lid are not a one-time job but a small daily habit, the way my grandfather walked the homestead at dawn, because the fly comes straight back the moment you leave the sweet wet thing out again. That steady small habit, not any single clever trick, is the real secret of why my people keep so few flies in the home while living surrounded by animals. Now I want to say the part that is bigger than a cup of vinegar, and I will say it plainly. Walk into any shop and you will find a whole shelf built to sell you the fly. The spray in the can that you missed over the very counter where you catch your bread. Poison, breathed in by you and your children in the closed warm room where you eat, and sold to you again the moment the can runs dry. The plug that hums in the wall and bills you a little every hour. The sticky strip, the scented gadget, the service that comes monthly with a contract and a signature. Each of these is built to be sold to you over and over, season after season. And here is the quiet truth the bright shelf will never tell you. A cut bottle, a spoon of yeast, a clean drain, a cup of vinegar. These cannot be sold to you twice. Nobody grows rich from telling you to empty your fruit bowl. Nobody can stamp a brand on a sprig of basil. There is no monthly bill hidden in a single drop of soap. That, and only that, is the reason this simple way is not shouted from every shelf. Not because it fails, because it works, it has kept the homes of my people clear, in real heat, among real animals, in conditions that would shock a city person. But because there is no money in the simple thing. The poison in the can must shout, because shouting is how it is sold. The yeast bottle does not shout. It just sits quietly in the corner, breathing, and fills itself with flies by morning. A person who can keep the fly out of the room where their family eats, with a cut bottle, a spoon of yeast, a clean bin, and a pot of basil, is a person who needs to buy nothing, breathe no poison, and owe no one. That is the whole of it. That is what my people have always had. Not because we were clever, but because we lived among the animals and the heat and had no choice but to learn it. And the things you learn when you have no choice are the things that truly work and never bail you. So here is exactly what I want you to do this week. First, walk your kitchen and find the one soft fruit, the loose bin lid, the sour drain, and take the breathing away. Pour the hot kettle down the drain. Second, cut a plastic bottle, turn the top in like a funnel, and set inside it warm water, a spoon of sugar, a spoon of yeast, and 1 drop of dish soap. And stand that living trap in the corner away from where you eat, and let it breathe through the night. Set a small cup of cider vinegar with 1 drop of soap beside your food bowl for the little ones. And set a pot of basil or a clove-stuck lemon where the flies come in. Then come and tell me in the comments below, where do you live, and which flies trouble you most, the big lazy ones or the little cloud over the fruit? And tell me, when you tipped out that yeast bottle after 3 days, how many it had caught. Because I promise you will be surprised, and I want to know. I read every single one of your messages. What you send back from your own kitchens is the reason I keep doing this. And next time, since we have spoken of the fly, I am going to show you the whole of how my grandmother kept the kitchen clean and sweet through the very worst of the heat with no machine and no chemical at all. The way she stored the food so nothing ever drew the fly in the first place, and one thing she always kept beside the cooking fire that I have never once seen in a city kitchen. It is the natural next step after today. Until then, keep the bin clean, keep the basil by the door, let the little bottle breathe in the corner and do its quiet work. And remember that the people who lived among the animals and the heat, long before the sprays and the gadgets, knew things we are only just beginning to remember.